I think most of us already know what the backrooms are, but for the 3 people watching this who somehow don't, the backrooms are basically an endless maze of strange, empty places that feel weirdly familiar. Office buildings, hotels, parking garages, places that look almost normal, but something always feels off. Instead of one giant maze though, it's actually made up of thousands of different levels, each with their own environment, creatures, and rules. And the only known way to get there is by no clipping, a video game term for passing through a solid object you're not supposed to. Except instead of walking through a wall, you end up in what's, to put it bluntly, hell. Some of you might have seen this logo in the backrooms, or might even know what it represents. This is the logo of the Major Explorer Group, or M.E.G for short. After doing extensive professional research, I found out they have quite a long history behind their back. The M.E.G is the largest and most well-known exploration and governing organization of the backrooms. Unlike an actual country, the M.E.G can't really enforce its laws everywhere. Their authority only extends to places they actually control. Everywhere else, it's pretty much survival of the fittest. They're basically trying to build a government in a place where governments aren't supposed to exist. Even they know it, like, this is how they put it.
The M.E.G is a contrivance, a stagnant, soulless shell of mundane bureaucracy, specifically configured to create the illusion of order in this liminal purgatory humanity stumbled upon by pure accident.
In the late 1800s, the M.E.G started as the British Coalition of Liminal Exploration. It was a group consisting of 4 groups: the United Azotian Empire, the Explorers, HMAPU, and New Britain. Even though they were united on paper, the coalition was a complete mess. Different factions wanted different things. Tensions kept rising, and eventually everything boiled over into a civil war. They called it the Major Civil War. Yeah, they weren't exactly creative with the names back then. This war didn't cause many casualties, but showed that the group needed some desperate reforms. After the war, every faction in the group agreed to assign a new leader of the group. Everyone agreed to assign the first, which was one of the leaders of New Britain at the time, to be the leader of the group. In the beginning of the 1900s, the first decided to fully fuse all of the groups together into one and rename the group to the Major Explorers Group. With the Civil War finally over, the M.E.G could get back to what it actually was made for, exploring the backrooms. Before this, they didn't even know there were more levels beyond the main 9, so naturally they started exploring further from the hub, which they had found in 1899, right before the Major Civil War. They used that level so often that they created a new outpost over there. That outpost led to the discovery and examination of multiple levels, increasing M.E.G's influence in the backrooms. The outpost grew so quickly that they eventually had to expand through the walls themselves. Turns out that wasn't a great idea. An entity known as the Keymaster wasn't exactly thrilled about them renovating his neighborhood, leading to the Battle of the Crossroads. After several engagements, the M.E.G and its allies finally won by using fire salt explosives, severely wounding the Keymaster and forcing him to surrender. Later, when the 1920s came around, the M.E.G's economy was booming, if you can say that. They had created a new alliance with the Backrooms colonists, named the Backrooms Pioneers back then. These 2 groups worked together to better the lives of tens of thousands in the Backrooms. The Second World War happened in the front rooms. As fascism spread across Europe, those ideas eventually found their way into the backrooms too. A faction within the M.E.G attempted a coup, but it was stopped before it could succeed. The conspirators were expelled, and they immediately formed their own organization, the Unbound Explorer Coalition. These guys, like another certain fascist regime, were not the greatest people. They got most of their ideology from British fascism. They committed mass unaliving of disabled people, minorities, and sapient entities. So that clearly angered the M.E.G and its allies. They combined it to a single group called the Allied Liminal Coalition against the UEC. Then they basically sent them back to the lobby. Now, after the UEC was gone, they gave the coalition a brand new name, the Cartographer Alliance. though it wasn't really holding up as well as they thought. The alliance entered what was essentially a cold war. All sides spied on each other, tensions kept rising, and eventually everything exploded into what's known now as the bloodbath of Cluster 1. When I say bloodbath, I mean it. It's said that the place it took place in, level 108, turned into the dark red color it is because of the amount of bloodshed that happened. Oh yeah, it took place in level 108 because everyone found out that there is a mysterious super weapon being built there. The problem is everyone thought that the other was building it. To make it worse, the weapon activated due to unknown reasons, opening a wormhole to a pocket dimension. Some operators were sucked into it while the others lost their lives due to the shockwave. Well, that told the M.E.G and the others enough, and they dissolved the Cartographer Alliance. Just when things finally seemed to stabilize, everything went wrong. The flicker caused lights across the entire backrooms to fail. Entity populations exploded and chaos spread everywhere. Combined with the Korthi-Kasagan war, the M.E.G lost almost half of its personnel, dropping from 46,000 members to just 25,000. It was easily one of the darkest periods of the organization. Now, the M.E.G, even though definitely weaker from its past self, is remilitarizing itself and growing. Rising tensions between other groups say that it might get pretty hostile soon. Even though the M.E.G is kinda a pseudo-government, it actually does operate like a real one. They have a whole group structure, multiple self-governing departments and teams for their own respective purposes. First, we have the First. The First has ultimate power over the entire organization. No one can object the decision of the First in the M.E.G, kinda like an emperor. Even if everyone votes against the First's decision, the First has right of way. Okay, maybe like an emperor if the emperor was Kimmy. The First is usually at the consensus meetings and primarily discusses the nature of the group with them. The second in power are the impresarios. There are 26 of them, classified from A to Z, who hold complete power second only to the First. They can do pretty much everything unless they have objections within the impresarios. Then they have to cast a vote. Now there are the heads of departments and overseers, but they are pretty self-explanatory. There are 9 exploration divisions in total, from E0 to E8. But unless you want this video turning into a documentary series, let's just look at 3 of the most interesting ones. E0 is the volunteer squad. This is the largest of the exploration teams. It consists mainly of any wanderer that inhabits one of the M.E.G outposts and is 18 or more of age. They can be drafted by someone with the rank of overseer or higher and are required to volunteer or face expulsion from the colony. This team is mainly just meant for training new recruits to make them more familiar navigating the backrooms. E6 is Alice in Wonderland. These guys explore levels in the backrooms that are hazardous to humans mentally, like level 0, so you might just go insane if you're not careful in these levels. E7 is Hazmat Squad. These might be the ones you're most familiar with, even though these are the second most smallest group out of the exploration teams. These guys wear those yellow hazmat suits for a very specific reason. They explore biologically hazardous levels in the backrooms, like level 0.11, which is just level 0 with bacteria growing in the carpets and walls, which will do stuff that I can't discuss because of obvious reasons. But I'll say this, it's carnivores. The research teams are basically the scientists of the M.E.G. They map newly discovered levels, classify threats, study entities, and occasionally invent some pretty ridiculous technology. For example, the Hyperbike, which is a bike that can run forever using paper stone from level 385, and the Void Backpack, which can store up to 5 items, and the Void Backpack, which can store up to 5 times the volume of itself inside. They are also classified similarly to the Explorer teams, ranging from R1 to R6. These guys are responsible for creating new colonies, transporting resources, and taking care of their inhabitants. They too are classified into 6 sections, from C1 to C6. The defense teams might be the coolest ones out of the bunch because, like, come on, they're literal helldivers. There are 4 of these, and D4 is the CLEF. These guys are These guys are pretty mysterious because we don't actually know anything about them. We know that they exist and that's pretty much it. Speculations say that they are used for either military or defense operations. The only known activity of theirs is them studying the Porcal Lumina, which is apparently an entity that looks like a normal place. So yeah, these guys are pretty weird. Well, talking about an organization in the backrooms, it's only natural to ask where it is. Well, you're in luck because the Meg has thousands of settlements in the backrooms. Even with that scale though, it's pretty rare to come by them. Of course, the Meg isn't alone down there. There are dozens of organizations, each with their own goals, rivalries, and let's just say interesting political opinions. Anyway, thanks for watching. Also, Psych.